Imagine for a moment a man named Carlos sitting at the dinner table. His wife, Anna, is talking about their day, about her worries at work, or how lonely she felt waiting for him. Carlos looks up, fiddles with his fork, and mumbles, "I'm fine," or stays quiet. Anna feels shut out, thinking, "Why won't he open up to me?" This scenario is heartbreakingly common. For many couples, the question, "Why can't men open up?" comes up again and again. We want to understand what forces shaped Carlos into this silent shell, and more importantly, how can Anna reach through that shell to truly connect with him? We have to start by acknowledging a powerful truth. Men, deep down, do want to feel close and loved. Research and therapists agree that most everyone longs for deep emotional intimacy in their relationships. Yet many men hide those needs, even from themselves. Why? It begins in childhood. Since boys are little, they receive constant direct messages about being a man. Phrases like, "boys don't cry," "man up," and "don't be so sensitive" are nearly drilled into us. On the surface, they sound harmless or even encouraging, but underneath they teach boys that feelings, especially tender, vulnerable ones, are not masculine. Instead, strength is measured by silence and stoicism. Quiet endurance and physical toughness are rewarded, while tears or fear are labeled weak. Over years, this builds what psychologists call a blueprint of masculinity, where emotional closeness feels foreign and even frightening. In society, these messages are echoed everywhere. Think of the movies, advertisements, even the way fathers often talk with sons. We celebrate and glamorize men's physical courage and sexuality, but we seldom show a man crying or saying he needs help. Girls are often praised for hugging a friend or talking through problems. Boys are more likely to be cheered for having the winning touchdown or fixing something around the house. As one therapist explains, in modern culture, men expressing themselves physically is encouraged, but men crying or navigating difficult emotions is portrayed as rare, awkward, or only acceptable in moments of crisis. Even well-meaning parents may tell their daughters, "It's okay to cry," while telling sons, "Toughen up." This double standard sends a subtle but powerful message. Becoming emotional is unmanly. Dr. Joanne Finkelstein, a psychologist who studies relationships, notes that girls grow up learning romance is part of their identity, but boys learn that relationships are something to endure, or at best, enjoy second to their career ambitions. If a boy shows he likes cuddles or shares a tear, he might immediately follow with "no homo," worried that being sensitive must mean he's not really a man. So, cultural conditioning pulls two ways on a man. On one hand, his deepest instincts crave closeness, but on the other hand, his upbringing shames that very closeness. Finkelstein writes that this is one of culture's cruel tricks. Men do want emotional intimacy with their partners, but the stereotypes they've swallowed make them pretend otherwise. In early childhood, boys and girls actually show very similar needs for affection and security. In fact, a famous experiment with babies showed both baby girls and boys scream in distress when their mothers suddenly become unresponsive. We're all wired for connection, but as boys reach mid-teenage years, many start retreating from emotional openness. Clinical interviews with hundreds of boys found that before age 15, boys talk about connection and trust with friends just as much as girls. After that, something changes. The wishes for tenderness are traded in for the mask of emotional stoicism. By the time a man grows up, even he may not recognize that yearning for care buried deep under years of "be a man" conditioning. This upbringing isn't just talk, it reshapes a man's inner life. Many men literally lack the tools to name and process complex feelings. Talk to Angel, a counseling resource, points out that if a boy was never taught how to identify his sadness, shame, or loneliness, trying to express them is like writing poetry in a language you never learned. Instead, he learns a few acceptable outlets: Anger and withdrawal are common defaults. If a man feels hurt or afraid, those feelings might be shunted into doing something, getting busy, diving into work or video games, or even snapping in anger, because sitting and saying "I feel hurt" has never been modeled for him. Dr. Ronald Levant, a psychologist who studied this, coined it normative male alexithymia. In simpler terms, men are usually not taught how to read or describe their emotions. Many can recognize when they are angry or upset, but they often don't know what to do with feelings like deep sadness or fear. Men often cannot do what is automatic for most women: simply sense inwardly, feel the feeling, and let the verbal description come to mind. Instead, they think, I feel, I don't know. I guess I feel anxious. And then maybe try to logic it out. They might say, I feel upset, but mean a whole storm of emotions they haven't unpacked. Because of all this, physical intimacy often feels easier than emotional intimacy. If Carlos and Anna are affectionate in bed or hold hands in public, those actions fit the traditional masculine script: confidence and closeness without words. But as soon as Anna says, I need to talk about something serious, Carlos may feel like he's walking on a tightrope over a dark chasm. Vulnerability means revealing your hidden fears and wounds, and for a man conditioned this way, that feels dangerous. If past attempts at sharing were met with a joke or a, why are you like this? The shame sticks. Carlos may have been at parties where he saw a friend cry and knew that friend would be picked on about it for weeks. Why risk that? It's not about him not caring, it's about a survival instinct kicking in. If showing fear or sadness ever got him hurt or embarrassed, the brain now treats opening up as a threat to avoid. I know this because I see it with people around me. I remember when I was young, a boy on my soccer team started crying after a game. The coach told him to get off the field. Years later, that boy hardly ever talks about personal things. He's not unusual. But let's be clear, men don't stop caring. They just cope differently. A man may quietly take action to fix problems, or might withdraw entirely when stressed, not because he's heartless, but because nobody showed him how to do it otherwise. In fact, experts note that when someone near us is upset, a man's instinct might be, let's go for a drive, have a beer, rather than, let's talk about it. One psychologist writes that inviting a friend to go fishing can be a kind of action empathy. It's a way men show they care, just without the words. In other words, men often comfort with actions, not conversations. This isn't a flaw, it's a different wiring influenced by culture. Studies have even shown men can identify all the basic emotions just as well as women, but it's their expression that differs. Women tend to verbalize, men tend to do something physical or practical. This difference can create real challenges in romantic relationships. Anna sees Carlos shrug and assumes he doesn't care, while Carlos sees Anna's frustration and feels misunderstood or guilty. Eventually, one or both partners may feel lonely, leading to arguments like, why do you never share anything? And, I just told you I'm fine. It can spiral. It's painful because both people usually love each other and want closeness. So how can couples navigate this? First, awareness. Just knowing that these patterns come from a long cultural history can be comforting in itself. Carlos can begin to see that his silence isn't personal or deliberate cruelty. It's something built into him by years of mixed messages. He might even name it, like normative male alexithymia, to remind himself it's not his fault. Self-reflection is powerful. Gentle self-questioning. What exactly am I feeling right now? Why do I feel that way? Can slowly build that emotional muscle inside him. Journaling or seeing a therapist, especially someone who understands male socialization, can give a man time and space to explore his feelings in private without pressure from an actual conversation. Over time, even identifying one feeling, sad, scared, jealous, whatever, is progress. Second, active listening and empathy from partners. Anna, for instance, might remember that Carlos often feels cornered by big talks, so she could try smaller steps. Instead of saying, "We need to talk," she might share a feeling first. "I felt really proud of you yesterday when you did X," or "I'm nervous about this decision." By modeling openness herself, she gently signals it's okay to talk about feelings. Research supports this. Couples who practice active, empathic listening report higher satisfaction and less conflict. That means if Anna looks at Carlos, puts down her phone, and really listens, "I get that you've had a rough day. Do you want to tell me more about what happened?" It shows respect and safety. Even simple phrases like, "I hear that this was hard for you," or "that sounds really tough," can validate Carlos's emotions. In therapies like EFT, practicing empathy and deep listening is shown to build trust and intimacy. When Carlos feels heard instead of judged, he's more likely to share a little next time. Couples might set aside quiet moments, maybe driving in the car or at night, to ask low-stakes questions. "What was the best part of your day?" Or, "Did anything worry you today?" This is a technique counselors suggest. Start with small windows into each other's inner world. Celebrate any step of sharing, no matter how small. If Carlos admits, "I was a bit stressed at work," Anna could respond positively. "Thank you for telling me. I'm glad you can share that with me." That positive reinforcement shows that vulnerability is strength, not weakness. Third, vulnerability as a skill. We have to reframe vulnerability not as a trap, but as a bridge. I like a quote, often attributed to Brené Brown. "Vulnerability is the birthplace of love, belonging, and joy." It sounds cliché, but it's true. It takes courage for Carlos to say, "I don't know how I feel," but each time he does, he chips away at the old "don't cry" programming. He learns that sharing a fear or a sadness doesn't make him less a man. It actually makes him more human. Emotional vulnerability is not an innate trait, but a skill that can be developed. With time, therapy, a wife's support, that skill grows. He'll discover he can feel connected to Anna on a whole new level by doing so. Fourth, emotional regulation. Often it's not about wanting to talk, it's about the timing. When Carlos is flush with anger or stress hormones, his brain is less equipped to explain itself. It might help him to pause, take a deep breath, maybe even say, "I need a minute," and then come back to the conversation when calmer. Partners can agree on a safe word or signal that means, "I need a time out, let's pause and revisit this soon." This prevents shouting matches and gives both minds a chance to regulate. Learning mindfulness or simple breathing exercises can be taught to both partners as a way to handle big feelings before trying to discuss them. Finally, commitment. Both Carlos and Anna should know that improving this isn't about fixing the man or blaming the woman. It's a joint journey. Anna can share some of her own vulnerabilities. This mutual sharing shows it's okay on both sides. They might even laugh at the absurdity of how society taught them to feel. Kind humor can deflate tension, but above all, they keep showing up for each other. There is no overnight solution. Unlearning decades of be a man rules takes patience. There will be missteps. Carlos might slip back into silence sometimes, or Anna might feel frustrated and not handle it perfectly. That's okay. It's progress that counts. A counselor once told a couple, "Progress, not perfection." The fact that they're even talking about this means they're moving forward. So to sum up, men often can't open up not because they don't want to, but because every part of their upbringing told them not to. Overcoming that means acknowledging the fear and loneliness behind a man's quiet exterior, then building a new pattern together. Couples can navigate this by creating safe spaces, listening actively, sharing gently, and supporting each other's growth. It's about reteaching our hearts that closeness is safe. And when that happens, the rewards are huge: deeper trust, real connection, and love that goes far beyond the physical.